Hello, this is John with Theology Ed. This is part 9 of the iPet Goat 2 series. In this part, I am going to explain, give you the full timeline of the video, beginning to end. Not every detail in the middle, but high points, important things. And really, what's most important about this is we get to see just how long of a haul this will be. It's not everything will happen on June 21st or June 22nd or between June 21st and July 5th or anything like that. It appears to be something that will take a year and a half, roughly, to complete according to the video. I think the video wraps up with the end of 2021, and I have reasons for that. If you look at this scene, this is what we're going to get to and explain in detail later. Not every single symbol in here. There's an enormous amount that is not going to be explained this video, but key things related to the timing. As you know, we saw that in a previous video, the Ace of Swords is on the board, or in the classroom tarot spread, and that suggested possibly, according to one astrologer, that whatever is happening could take up to a year for you to really perceive and understand and grasp. And that would mean that if that applied to this video and what's happening around June 21st to July 5th, which is featured in that classroom, that it could take all the way into the summer of 2021 before it really catches on, before people really get the idea. And I think that makes sense to me, but I didn't think it was sufficient to make a very strong defense of the position that this will take a while for everything to unfold. Now I have a stronger case to make. But first I want to start with the Simpsons here. You remember the Simpsons episode in which they saw the Great American Eclipse. The episode was released, 2010-11 roughly. And the eclipse, the Great American Eclipse, happened in 2017, the August of 2017, and they made it very clear that that's what this is. They didn't give the date by name, but they showed the eclipse went to totality, and they even showed that it went from the northwest of the United States to the southeast of the United States. That eclipse was the 2017 Great American Eclipse. And so the episode started there, and we've covered it before in other videos outside this series, and I'll summarize it here in a little bit. But there was something interesting that they said in this scene right here depicted where they're watching the eclipse. And they said, we're going to remember this for years. And then they repeat it again for years. And it sounded almost like a chant or something bizarre. It wasn't normal speech. And so when I watched, I thought, boy, what am I supposed to do with that? Because the Great American Eclipse is 2017. It points to the ring eclipse. Then it goes to the first full moon after the ring eclipse. That's in 2020. But that's not 4 years, because is it FOR years? 4 years. I will remember this for many years. Or is it FOUR years? 4 years. And it's ambiguous because they say it in a way that they're clearly drawing our attention to this sort of strange way of speaking. It didn't fit the episode at all if you watch that scene. And so now, and again, when I saw the Ace of Swords, I thought, well, maybe that suggests that the 4 years thing goes into 2021. But like I said, I didn't feel convinced that I should build a lot on that Ace of Cards reading. I think I need more than that. So we're going to get into that right now. But I wanted to point out now, at the beginning, at the outset, that in the Simpsons episode, which is an episode that goes from 2017 Great American Eclipse to the ring eclipse after a lot of time, to the moon, and then to the Great Crimes Kill Holy Sage part, which I think isn't an acronym at all. Anagram at all. But I think instead of it being an anagram, I think it literally means that this is a move to kill the people who call themselves holy, and maybe even the Pope. Because, remember, the whole iPet Goat 2 is what? It's the Mark of the Beast ritual, and with an attempt to bring about the Eon of Horus in purity, eliminating the Eon of Osiris and what's left of it, including all resurrection, religion, and so on. So getting rid of Christianity is central to this. The fish dying in the boat of Anubis, the church being destroyed at the end of the church, the mark of the beast, 666 on the goat who's going to be killed. We have the mark of the beast symbolism on the board. Everything points to the goal is elimination of Christianity. That's the goal, to bring in a new world order. Well, I'm calling it that, but they're calling it the Eon of Horus and the age of Aquarius and all of this. So they are looking at it from that perspective, and they're looking at to get rid of the Christians. So killing the holy sage with great crimes actually fits perfectly with that plan. We don't need to dig around and find some hidden meaning necessarily. I think it's right there. And that's why the creator said, can you figure it out? And we said, we can't, because it's not an anagram in the first place. So, but let's go, and I'm going to quickly begin, because we're doing the timeline, and we're here in the video, we should do the calendar as a part of the iPad Go 2 series, explained series. We've talked about it in other videos, but let's build it in here. I'll do it quickly. The calendar is 2 years. It's 2017, and it is 2020. 2017... you can tell that it is 2017 because when we read the months, back row to front row, we have everything match up with the year in a really incredible way. We have the joined heads. July and August are the calendar months, Gregorian calendar months, but in the lunar calendar, they happen to be lunar month 6th and lunar month 6. It was a leap year in the Chinese lunar calendar, which meant that there were 2 6th months, which explains why the heads are joined. It's like one. They're both. It's like there's month 6, but it just happens to be roughly 60 days, or I guess 62 days, rather than your regular 30-day or 31-day month. Okay, and so we have the joined months. Additionally, August had a solar eclipse. That's the Great American Eclipse, which happened to be still in the 6th lunar month as well. So we have the August eclipse depicted on the face. The months joined. Additionally, when we go through the year, we get to month 9, then we get the girl, and month 10. In 2017, there was an alignment where we had the girl with her clothed in the sun, with the moon under her feet, giving birth, and it was Jupiter that was passing through the constellation Virgo and all of this. If you look, they clothe her in the sun, and they have her with the moon beneath her feet, and she has the apple, which looks like Jupiter, a red planet. Okay, and she does drop it. Looks like gives birth and rolls over. So we have everything matching really well for 2017, and there's no question about it. 2017 was depicted in the video, and in fact, just like right after the alignment, where the plants get crazy, things got crazy in 2017 with hurricanes and so on, and enormous rainstorms related to Hurricane Harvey, for example. Then there's Irma, so we had this line up really well. Now it's also 2020. In 2020, for the 2020 calendar, we don't read back row to front row. We just read left to right. Like we have a line here. We go January, February, come to March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November, December. Okay, left to right. And we have signs in here that also point to it being the 2020 calendar. For example, 2020 has 13 full moons. One of them happens to be the end of October that goes into the November. Okay, which is why we have joined heads. It's the hunter's moon, related to the shape here. That's easier to see like this. Looks like a hunting dog to me. Okay, and it was eyes open. Commenter who thought it looked like a sheep and pointed that out first before I even saw an animal there at all. And that may be a sheep, but I think to me it looks sort of like a dog, but certainly an animal shape in there, which I think is interesting. So we have that. We have the months joined because of the moon. We have April, pink. We have the pink moon in April. And we even get the fact that this year, 2020, it is a supermoon. It was one of the brightest supermoons in a very long time as well, not just this year. So it's a very bright supermoon, which is why the pink light on the back wall is very large and very bright. It also has an eclipse. June 21st, right in the June month before July, we have the girl representing an eclipse this time. She's an annular eclipse, woman or female representing the lunar principle. We have the sun beneath her being blocked, but not totally. It's a ring eclipse with this dot to the side, which we see in the Heliofont name at the end of the video, next to the O, which is an annular eclipse, and which we see on Obama's face, which is also an annular eclipse that they draw very close. They put close to the, if you want to say it close to the camera to make sure you don't miss it. Okay, this dot goes with the eclipses throughout the video, and here it is. This is a solar eclipse, and this is the moon in her hands. We've talked about that in other videos. She will drop the moon, and we'll go over here, and we'll pay attention to the moon. But the moon is also depicted on the wall, the first full moon after the solar eclipse. This is the June 21st solstice eclipse, which happens on a Father's Day. We have the buck moon, or the stag moon. That is the night of July 4th into July 5th. Okay, and the minute at which it's full is like 12:44 or something. But Eastern time, I think. I may be wrong on it being Eastern time, but the point is it's right at basically midnight. Depends on where you're at in the world. So July 4th to July 5th, and we have this full moon, which is an angry moon. And again, after this moon, you get the chaos and the messed, the vines that look wild as opposed to regular grass. Now we have, let's see. So we have April's pink, we've got the pink moon, we've got the buck moon, we've got the eclipse, we've got the matching, we've got the extra full moon in the year that comes joining October and November. So we have a really, I mean, I think it's indisputable we have 2020 here as well. So we have the calendar year of 2020 as well as 2017. So this eclipse is important. The August 21st, 2017 eclipse is an IPET Go-2, and then we also see events that look like they take off this year with the June 21st and eclipse and the subsequent buck moon. Okay, if you notice, the buck moon is directly above the water carrier symbol or this girl being violated. The girl as a water carrier represents the age of Aquarius. That's a common symbol, but if you notice, this here is a foot to a knee, leg. Her head is at waist high. This is also, I think, probably corresponding to some later representations in the video of a whore being violated or raped. And over here, we have a fish on the left side of her, which is representing the past, the right side going forward to the future. That's the age of Pisces. This is the age of Aquarius that they're supposedly entering into, which is supposed to correspond to their Eon of Horus. Previous videos, obviously, in this series discuss that. So if you're unfamiliar with that, you're just catching on now or joining us now. Previous videos explain it, excuse me, in depth. So here we have 2020. They are representing it as a year that we passed from Pisces to Aquarius, and that's that. So now let's go ahead and look at our timeline. We have in 2001 the first 9/11. iPet Goat 2 is about the second 9/11. George Bush was reading the pet goat in the first one. So this is the one that comes after it. And interestingly, there was a June 21st solar eclipse, a solstice eclipse, in the year of the 9/11 attacks. We have that this year, and we have a buck moon coming after it. That is associated with chaos, and we see that later in the video with buck clouds over catastrophes in at least two scenes. okay, over the water scene, and then over the scene with the oil spill or the oil dripping into the water, and the lightning strike that reads 7.5 and rain. Now we have the 9/11 original eclipse. Skip some time, we get to the Great American Eclipse, which marks a beginning for them. Simpsons say 4 years, but here we have that eclipse. Then we go to the June 21st, 2020 eclipse, followed by the buck moon. That's the timeline so far, and we see that in many, many sources. One, we see it in that Simpsons episode. We had the Great American Eclipse. The years pass like time with passing. We have the sun, Earth, and moon, and they go around showing the passage of time. Lisa gets bored. It takes so long. It's because it took a few years. And then finally she gets a clue that says, go find the ring. The ring eclipse, an annular eclipse is a ring eclipse. Then we go, and she ends up in this bell tower talking to members of a secret society who say the Freemasons searched for a gem, and legend says the gem will be revealed during the first full moon after a solar eclipse. And then on that full moon night, we have an Antichrist type figure, and then we have Bart representing an Antichrist type figure, and then we have hell open up, demons appearing, hurricanes appearing, destruction of stained glass windows with Jesus on them, and the art is replaced with demonic art. Okay, so this is a huge change in the world on that full moon after the eclipse. So we have The Simpsons falling right in line with our schedule so far. We have Drive Angry, a movie about ritual, a satanic ritual, a sacrifice, in which this cult leader is a Satanist who plans on the first full moon after, and they don't tell you what, but after some event, they plan to sacrifice a little girl in order, he says, that the hounds of hell will be at his command, and they will bring in a new world order. That instead of Jesus is coming, they scratched out and put the Satanism on it, and we have the two Hearts Symbolism, which we also saw on the board in the classroom. And the Two of Hearts is a way to represent the Two of Cups in the Tarot deck, which corresponds to the first decan of Cancer, June 21st to July 1st. And this guy, he's the one that mentions that it was the first full moon after something. He says, on the first full moon, she's going to die and hell's going to walk the MF earth. Okay, so he is he's saying hell's going to walk the earth, hounds of hell at their command, new world order, satanic world order, and not Jesus is coming, Satan is coming. And when? With the hearts. And there may even be some numbers on his face. I'm not positive. If you look closely, you see this can be a 7 and a 5. But it probably isn't that. Maybe it is. Maybe I'm just seeing something, But you get these lines as well. So I'm sure there's some other occult symbolism in here. Maybe even astrological. I don't know. Take a look. Think about it for yourselves and let me know if you see anything there. But this has also a similar chronology. We have some event, they don't specify what it is, followed by a full moon, which looks like all of this is related to this period of time, this decan of Cancer, late June, early July. Satanic ritual, releasing demons, similar pattern. Okay. Next, we have the movie that I covered recently, Knowing. In this one, we have clear connections to 9/11 and predictions of different events, and even some predictive programming in the movie for the Gulf oil spill and possibly the Japan Fukushima tsunami, earthquake, and nuclear crisis. There's a Japan doomsday clock in there. And then we have over here a vision when a whisperer comes in, sees the boy, and he shows the boy a vision, and he sees an annular eclipse, looks out the window, and he sees the world burning entirely, and it was a vision of a solar flare that was going to burn everything, and out of it comes a stag on fire. Okay, so there's your annular eclipse, association with 9/11, annular eclipse, catastrophe with the stag moon. The buck moon is also called a stag moon. And so we have that. We're getting a pattern, you see. This pattern is consistent. It repeats over and over again in different places. We have, first we take Manhattan, then we take Berlin, the Leonard Cohen song. He wrote this before Manhattan was even taken. But he says, first we take Manhattan. We're guided by the signs in the heavens. And he says that, speaking of, I believe the second one, he says, it's Father's Day and everybody's wounded. So here we have two events that were in June 21st solstice eclipse years. First we take Manhattan, then we take Berlin, representing the whole free world, after the JFK speech in which he said we are all Berliners, speaking of the free world. And it was a famous Cold War speech. And the Berlin here is representing that, but it's associated with the Father's Day event where signs in the heavens are relevant. So signs in the heavens, it's Father's Day, and everybody's wounded. And we have in our this June 21st solstice eclipse this year is also a Father's Day eclipse. That's Father's Day this year. Okay, so we get there. We get the 9/11 and the next 9/11 as well. Also, that one's interesting because they have the briefcase nukes, and all the people, where do they go with the nukes? To the shore, the coast. They're going to the ocean and dropping their bombs off, and then they just walk away. Why would you bomb with like 20 or 30 suitcase nukes the beach that's empty? Okay, it seems like it could be related to the water event in iPet Goat 2 as well, if there's an actual water event coming. Okay, let's keep going. We have the Be Ready video, a very short video, like an advertisement. We have him representing the sun. Then we have, looks like a solar flare going at it or whatever. And I couldn't get it because the frames are separate. But in a single screenshot, I couldn't do it. But there's an eclipse depicted. Then after that, he's over here. He's picking dates. He passes April 19th, stays there for a second. Then he goes to the right, and he has an empty screen because there's no picture of the future. And then he looks at these numbers right here. They're backwards because we're looking at it from the back side of the glass. And in there, you have the 311, which is an indication of some of their occult stuff. It's one of their, I don't know, I don't want to use the word magic, but like magic numbers or special numbers, 33 and 3 and 11. Okay? And then we have 621, 21, 6, and then 4, 7. There's your 621, and then your 4, 7. There's your July 4th, 5th Buck Moon event. After that, he says, he pushes a button that we see. It says "Run Away," and then it talks about Sector New York water or New York City water. Okay, so another looks like possibly water event, New York City. Again, a parallel with iPet Goat 2. Continuing, so we'll put that under here as well. Then we have the other Simpsons episode, which again hints at this. We have them warning us, look at the clocks. We see Lisa saying, look at the clocks. We see Marge saying, look at the watch, look at the time, pay attention to the time. The opening song was different. It was that tick-tock or whatever. Then we go over, we see the clocks. He yells, panic, and we have the time here. I'm not positive what that means, but if you look closely, it could be a 7 plus a 3 and a 4, 7, but I don't think that's right. It could be a 7 and almost a 4. Panic when it gets close to 7, 4. Now we go over here, and we have up here 6, and the hand is between the 10 and the 11. 621. Put those together. And then the bomb goes off. He says 5, 4, no time for full count out. That could be a hint of May in a few days here. Not that I'm counting on it, but I'm just saying these are types of hints that you could have. 5, 4, no time for full count. I mean, we may not even get all the way to their eclipse date this time for the bomb to go off. He detonates the nuclear bomb when he does this. The bomb goes off. It's a nuclear dirty bomb. It's and it sends the clock flying, and it lands in the Simpsons' backyard, and it is a 9 and 11 upside down. So we have a second 9/11 idea here. Okay, second 9/11 again associated with the 621, possibly even a mention of a almost 7/4. Panic when it's almost 7/4. You get close to the July 4th, panic. That's the Buck Moon. Okay. Let's keep going. And so I put that down there. So now we have our timeline up through the Buck Moon. But we have more than that from iPet Go 2, right? We went outside the classroom and we saw the graffiti on the wall. And we saw there the trident, the symbol of Neptune, with an R, which means Neptune retrograde. And on the board in the classroom, we also had the equation, the vector equation, F equals negative F, which represented a time when velocity in one direction equals the velocity going in another direction of a body in this context. And what would that be? When there's no velocity. In other words, when a body like a planet is going one direction, then it stops, stations retrograde to go back. That moment at which, from our perspective, it looks like it stops, that would be when the equation is true. In other words, that's a way of pointing out the retrograde motion of a planet changing, one way or the other. And turns out that the day after the 621 eclipse is the 622 date when Neptune stations retrograde in Pisces, okay, which is apparently astrologically a very big deal and associated with possible, the astrologer said tsunami of changes at astrology.com, and a tsunami and this sort of thing, because Neptune is associated with what? God of the sea, god of earthquakes, and all of this. And so Neptune stations retrograde on June 22nd and continues retrograde through November 28th. And so we have the symbolism even in the snow. Here's the trident, the Neptune symbol, and this part curves around to another one, it looks like. So another trident like this, right here. Could represent the whole period, but certainly the focus is on that beginning part from June 22nd to July 4th, 5th. How do we know that? Look closely at the snow. We have the trident, go to the right, and we have here a south lunar node. A south lunar node will happen on July 5th. That's the eclipse is a south node eclipse. Okay, this represents the south node, and just in case you have doubts that this is the July 5th buck moon eclipse, which is a penumbral eclipse, they put the U.S. flag pole pointed right here on the way this way. That is July 4th, 4th of July, the flag, and it's torn up because it's going to be a very unhappy that date is going to be associated with something very unpleasant for the United States. May not happen on that date. I don't know. It may just be ritual. I say that repeatedly. But it may not be as well. We don't know. We'll see when July 4th, 5th come around. But certainly it is featured repeatedly in this video and elsewhere. So there it is. We go from Neptune over here. And if this whole thing, these three together, represent another trident, we can get this whole period. So our timeline gets extended from from the Great American Eclipse to this period that's coming up very soon, from the solar eclipse on June 21st through July 5th, and not the solar eclipse that whole time. The solar eclipse on June 21st and the penumbral buck moon eclipse on July 5th. And then in the middle we see Neptune station retrograde and go forward. That's symbolized as important, so our timeline may go all the way to the end of November. So the question is that where it ends? Does it end here, or does it keep going? Now, I've mentioned already that we have the Ace of Swords in this video. Of course, you have the Two of Hearts in these eyes. We have the Three of Hearts here. Those are the Two of Cups and the Three of Cups. They correspond to those in the tarot deck. We have below the board, we have a single heart. That's an Ace of Hearts. And then we have the Queen of Cups, represented by the girl out in the classroom. Now, these cups represent, the Two of Cups represent June 21st through July 1st, according to the tarot. Just standard tarot stuff. Excuse me for talking about tarot, interpretation of tarot cards. They correspond to decans, and so they actually have dates that correspond to them. And the Three of Cups from July 1st or 2nd through July 11th. Okay, and that's why the Three of Hearts is also right next to the buck that has the yellow drops of sweat or fire, depends on how we read that. Interpret that over there on the wall. But we have the hearts here. So we have a tarot deck, but this one is not a heart. This goes up instead of down, and it has the shape of a downward pointed spade. And of course, they put it on an African American or black woman to draw attention to that. And so we have that corresponds, the spades correspond to the swords. The Ace of Swords, which as the astrologer I was reading said that suggests that it could be up to a year before we perceive what's happening to us or what changed in us or changes in our lives or whatever. In other words, whatever happens here near the June 21st to July 5th event may not even be recognized for what it is by the people, most of the people. It may take a long time for people to really get it. It may take a full year. And again, that goes all the way out to, let's say, next July, roughly, July 2021. So here's our calendar so far. I think the purple line here, the Ace of Swords, we're going to have to we need more verification that this type of reading is justified. I wouldn't want to go too far on just a reading of a tarot card. Okay, so we have that now. Let me show you. So here we are. This is that final scene. But the sequence is, we have that final scene where the boy comes out of the mosque. After his scene, we go to the final dancers. After the final part of the dance is the sun rises, and then we see the birth, water breaking and birth, of RHK, Rahu Kut, okay, the vengeful Horus, basically, god of war Horus. Okay, and so that's the sequence. In other words, this is final victory at this scene for them in their minds. When he's rising, this is all part of the culmination of their plan. So if there are ways for us to identify dates or rough dates or approximations of when this ends in that scene, that would give us a good idea of roughly when things end. So let's look at it. Here's the scene. He rises, he's spinning. Can we show that? Here, let me show it to you. He rises, spinning. He goes up in front of the moon. Okay. Then we see the motion over, passes in front of a reflection of the moon, and then he goes in front of, here. Oh, man. Oh, I have to watch it. Okay. And then right at the end, our view of him is obstructed. Okay? So now, let's explain this scene. We have I'll call it three eclipses. We are in the position of the sun. We're the sun. Imagine yourself as the sun right now, and you're looking here. This is the earth. He's the earth. Where would his shadow be cast? On the moon. So that would be a lunar eclipse. Okay, so we are looking here at a lunar eclipse. Now, he goes and circles over here in front of this reflection of the moon. A second eclipse. Again, from our perspective, his shadow would be cast on, if we're the sun, his shadow would be cast on the moon down there. A second eclipse. And then he continues going until he is on the other side of an object with respect to us. We are blocked from his perspective. If he looks at us, we're blocked. That is a solar eclipse. Okay. Now, let's look into these. Is there a way for us to know which they are? My suspicion is this one here is still representing the buck moon on July 4th, 5th. Why? Well, because the whole night, when you have the full moon that night, it was the buck moon. We had the rabbits up there in the clouds. They seem to be depicting this as the July 5th date when all of this is happening that night. July 4th night or July 5th night. But it would have to be July 4th to 5th. Right? So we have that night. That's what seems to be depicted there. But now, what about this one? What is this eclipse? Well, if we were to look and say, well, when's the next eclipse? Well, here's our July 4th, 5th eclipse. The next lunar eclipse would be November 30th. Okay, maybe it's November 30th. And then we'd say, well, then the next solar eclipse after that would be December 14th. So do we have a November 30th and December 14th eclipse here? What would that tell us? We'd go through, we'd say, okay, buck moon, next lunar eclipse, because that's the next one. November eclipse. That corresponds pretty well with the end of the Neptune Retrograde period, right? November 30th, November 28th. And then we'd go quickly over to the December solar eclipse, which, again, sounds good. It would be the end of the year. That's close to the grand conjunction or great conjunction, whatever, Saturn and Jupiter in Aquarius, which is a very big deal. A lot of people associate that with the beginning of the age of Aquarius. which the video also references. And so we may have something, right? And if you look at the calendar, what does December's head look like? Big hole in it, all right? If we go look, it looks like something big could happen there. And we even have an X over the mouth here of November, and we have that eclipse up here. Maybe that's a way of depicting in 2020 the eclipse, the solar eclipse that we're talking about right now, or the lunar eclipse that we're talking about right now. So let me go back to where we were. That's one possibility. Is it right? I think it's not, and I'm pretty sure it's not. Why would it not be correct? Because that would put the end of it roughly at what? This year, at the end of December, in December of this year. Why shouldn't we think that? If we look closely at this eclipse, we can see that the eclipse is in a bow and arrow. You see that? It's in the bow and arrow. Now let's go look. November eclipse, is it in Sagittarius? No. Sagittarius, the sign of Sagittarius, is the archer with the bow and arrow. Okay? So we have this bow and arrow with the eclipse in it, but we do not have the November eclipse in Sagittarius, which I think means that that would be wrong. Additionally, if you look here, this is again another lunar south node. You see it right there? This lunar south node with Sagittarius. November's eclipse is a north node eclipse. Okay, so where do we find a Sagittarius lunar eclipse that's a south node eclipse? May 26th, 2021, we have a south node lunar eclipse at 5 degrees Sagittarius. May 26th, 2021. I believe that's the eclipse, and here is some confirmation of it. A very interesting confirmation, in fact. Look closely. I've included in the screenshot the time down here. When he goes into the eclipse, what time in the video is it? It is 5 minutes and 26 seconds. And in fact, that happens the second he touches the moon here. When he enters the moon, it goes to 5:26. He stays there, and when he leaves, it goes to 5:27. He is representing a 5:26, the May 26th, Sagittarius South Node eclipse. That puts him in May of 2021. So then what is the solar eclipse that's depicted here? There's a solar eclipse on June 10th next year. But it's North Node, and it's in Gemini. Now look. Watch. If we go back to this scene, look here. Here's our, up here in this upper right, we have the South Lunar Node. Again, I'm pointing to it. Right here. It's highlighted here. Okay? This little landmark is right next to it. Memorize what that looks like. Now, when we get to the scene here, where we are going to exit and go to the dance, we have an alignment. We have the Earth. We have the obstacle, which I guess would be the moon in this case, being the solar eclipse from this direction. We're on the sun side. What is blocked? We're in the alignment with the node. That is also a south lunar node. This is a solar eclipse with a south lunar node. Now, let's go look. Which one is that? A south node solar eclipse. Did I say lunar? I meant solar. A south node solar eclipse, again in Sagittarius. So if we go back up here, we still have, because this was a Sagittarius lunar south node for May 26th, it would make sense that it is one for the solar eclipse as well. I think what we have here is the December 3rd, 2021 south node solar eclipse in Sagittarius. Okay, which would give us the end point for the video, because right after this he's going to go into the dance. Oh, here I put a penumbral eclipse. It looks like a penumbral eclipse to me. See it? Anyways, when we get out and we go to the dance scene, what comes after that? The end. We he does a little bit of a dance. The sun comes out and we're birthed. We're birthed. RHK, Rahur Kut, is birthed. Okay, this is all associated because this was his resurrection as well, his resurrection. But it goes through a period of time that passes before the birthing. I don't know how much time goes after the December 3rd eclipse, but I do think this suggests that it goes all the way up to the December 3rd eclipse. And let's see. And so here's our timeline. We have the 9/11 attacks, we have the big break, then we have the Great American Eclipse, which is a key starting point. The Simpsons say 4 years. Well, 4 years, yeah, that'll take you right over here. Okay? Right to our climax point when everything's wrapped up, according to IPET Goat 2. We have June 21st, the solar eclipse that's in the calendar, the classroom calendar, and the buck moon, which comes up in the classroom calendar, and both of those come up repeatedly in all sorts of predictive programming and ritual magic sort of theater. Then we have the Neptune period. We have a Neptune retrograde period that goes from 622 to 1128. My suspicion is if there is terrible stuff happening, it might appear like natural disasters. Maybe not. Maybe it'll be false flag wars. I don't know. If you look at all those predictive programming, we have fires, we have the solar flares, we have nuclear bombs and Simpsons. We have water events. Be prepared. Water sector. We have things. We have a variety of things. IPET Go 2 looks like water, right? But the whole theme is water, and throughout the video. But here we have Neptune retrograde, which suggests water-related stuff. Maybe this period is going to be like that, and maybe people, the normal person, will be like, oh, it's just natural disaster. It's unbelievable how bad our luck has been, or whatever, and that's why they don't catch on until next year that they've lost everything. They've lost every right they've got. They've lost what the past used to be like. The future is not the same, and they're in a new world. And I'll explain in the next video, because my next video is going to be primarily about him, okay? Not just here, but throughout the whole video. We're going to start filling in gaps in the middle now. But I also think that probably what's happening here, starting around May 26th, leading up to that end of the year, is, in their minds, part of their plan, a change in the consciousness or self-awareness of the people to accept their Eon of Horus. I believe they think they're sort of almost like hazing us into accepting the new reality. Like, you show up, you don't really understand the system, and they beat you into it through all this hardship and suffering, and then finally you become enlightened. And so there's a phase at the end of it when there's, I think, there will be denial, but I think there's going to be acceptance in their view. That's what they want. And so that's what I think is probably as part of their agenda for the end of 2021. The second half of 2021 is acceptance. Now, which means a lot of change has to happen between June of this year and May, the end of May of next year, and then even after that, in how people view the world, according to them, by next December. So we'll see what happens. This is the big timeline. I think it gives us a foundation, a way to approach the whole video now. We can evaluate different interpretations of scenes to see whether it's consistent with the big idea, the big plan. Because now we can be pretty sure, I think, that we are in this, we have the end dates roughly correct. I want to add one more confirmation of that. If you look, we have 8s in this scene. There's several 8s. We have this time, looks like an 8, looks like a little clock, a sundial clock, and it has 8. Here we have an H, which is the 8th letter of the alphabet. Here, in the reflection of the water, we have an 8 in the water. One thing I think might be going on here is this might be showing the August, making some reference to the August 2017 eclipse, because we also have a backwards 17 right here. And the video was released in 2012, so long before that eclipse. So putting in some hints is, hey, we're talking about a period that starts in 2017 would make sense, and I think you get some hints of that. But I also think this is representing probably the 8th month of the year. And when we go and we look, when we pass from here to here, it crosses the 8th month. So if this is the 5th month, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, not that my mouse, 9th, 10th, 11th, roughly 12 here. Okay, if you're looking at this as a like a dial, or where you're looking at, you divide it up in months. If this is May and that's December, 8, August would be roughly here. Okay, and so we do have him passing 8. If it was another series of, if this was a different lunar eclipse and that was a different solar eclipse, like let's say that was May to June, you don't cross 8. Or if that was November to December, you don't cross 8. But if it's May to December, which is what makes most sense with the Sagittarius and the node and all that, if it's 8 to 12, you have to pass, if it's 5 to 12, you have to pass 8 right here. And in fact, it's right where you need it to be. And so you have another confirmation that we've got this correct. Now, have a ball looking at this page. There's a lot of symbolism in here that I'm going to go through, hopefully at some point. This looks like Cancer right here. So here we have 5 of these points, posts, whatever. They may represent month 5, May. When the war scene starts, where the bombers are going to go and drop the bombs on this mosque, you see these 5, and below them on this hill, like an 11. Okay, so it looks like it could be 5, 11. I'm not a date picker and predictor. I'm not a big fan of doing that, just because I know almost always I'll be wrong. But it is a possibility. Also, there could be other significance. The 2 lines down there that look like an 11 could be something like Gemini. We have, this looks like a sun. Maybe it's depicting a sun. Maybe we can get a little solar system look down here. I don't know, because you get the shadow cast. This looks like a sundial, and that shadow looks like it's coming from that direction. There are a lot of things. You got the arrow here. You've got the backwards 17 over here. You got some letters in here. Maybe some Morse code. Over on the far left, we have more numbers. So, right. Nope, I don't. Yeah. Do I not have those numbers in any of these screenshots? I don't have them. Either way, you can take a look and really evaluate this, what's going on. And, if you come up with good ideas, just leave a comment. Let me know. But a lot going on. But this is what I think we're looking at, and I think this will help us to understand the rest of iPet Goat 2. Okay, so wish you all the best, and thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, share this, and sorry I had to delete the first video I put up. I put one up. I thought it was fine. The audio sounded good. The beginning looked okay, and then later on a lag was introduced into the video that just made it terrible and impossible to follow, so I had to delete it, unfortunately. So sorry about that. That's inconvenient. Take care.